Alright, welcome. Welcome everyone. Wherever you are, we are back on to the podcast. And today, I'm a sport fan, I can't lie. But we do have many issues and problems with sport fans in general. Some could be minor, but some do border the social and deep-rooted issues that are pretty borderline. So, join me as I investigate fully the problems with modern-day sport fans. This episode contains 2 different interviews with the youth and the not-so-youth. Me reading some funny messages that could or could not be offensive, and maybe some professional ranting at one of the most major sporting media companies in the world. So, let's get this started as I find out the problems with the modern day sport fans.
Oh, the game's got it. The game's got it.
Oh, that was crazy. I've never actually experienced that sort of atmosphere again before. It's absolutely electric.
Well, you just knew that was going to happen. That was going to happen.
You know, the best thing about today is the fact that I couldn't see any of it because I'm blind, so...
It's been raining, so the pitch is quite...
It's been raining? Yeah. Are you being serious? It's raining for both teams.
I don't do if, buts and maybes, I do absolutes. And...
In terms of results, Mick, 1 win in 17. It can't go on like this, can it?
It can.
So then, let's get into the first point of how modern sport fans have just worsened in general than the past. And one of the main reasons is the rise of social media. And this is why I said modern sport fans, because there wasn't social media. Like, YouTube existed in 2005, and Twitter and Facebook started in 2006, and TikTok started in the mid-2010s. Like, those people just couldn't have the access to the social media as it just didn't exist. If they wanted to say what they think, they had to do something extremely difficult. I'm just going to hold your hand when I say this. They had to touch grass. I know, they had to go outside and just breathe clean air instead of... And they had to do it in many ways. They had to actually go to whatever sporting event they wanted to do. They had to go to the newspaper and buy a newspaper, or just join in local events at like a bar or a pub or whatever. And what does social media bring? Well, a lot of things, and some are good. Like, it provides a better connection, and it's something that you haven't really seen before with the fans and the players and even the teams. It's extremely easy to stay up to date, but some people do take advantage of this freedom and this free speech, and there are people who are mostly anonymous, like I don't know them, we don't know them, who do decide to spout a bit of hate. And some are just like, oh, this player's bad, oh, this team's rubbish. Stuff that are fine and which are understandable. You can obviously vent out your anger. But there are some which do plague into the deep social issues that we have today. I'm talking about stuff like racism and sexism, like that sort of stuff. However, this still existed. Like, people could still say what they want, especially in the 2000s and the 90s, where these laws of protection over the players were very relaxed. And I'll actually give you an example, maybe like a short view back to the past. 30 years ago, January 25th, 1995, so 31 years ago, and 3 days ago at the time of recording, Crystal Palace were facing Manchester United in a Premier League game. And I want to say, before I'm going to say this, I promise it's not going to be all football related. Trust me, I do actually have some better ideas coming. Okay, so there was this fan. I don't want to say his name, so let's call him John. So John here, he did not like one of the Manchester United forwards called Eric Cantona. And in the stands at it wasn't Selhurst Park, was it? I'm just going to say it was Selhurst Park. At Selhurst Park, one of the fans just said racist stuff to Cantona. And you know what he did? Yeah, he kicked him like hard into the stands. He leapt into the stands and just kicked the fan. Yeah, that's stuff that happens, and You don't see that today. You don't, because there's this thing called PR training, and a lot of teams and a lot of players and a lot of athletes, that's almost as important as skills training for them. Essentially, if you don't know what PR is, it's how good you are in front of the media, how good you are in front of fans. Basically, a good PR is you give the good answers and you don't say anything you'd live to regret. But a bad PR is you probably say something controversial, you live to regret it, and honestly, if you have a bad online presence, your career could be over. And this is something that is very focused on in today's era. Like, I'll go back to the Cantona story. That was absolutely huge in the 1990s, and you know, he got banned for 8 years, but the fan got sentenced for, I think, 2 years in prison for that, and was never allowed back at a sports game in his life. So yeah, but to be fair, I do understand his anger, since I wouldn't like it if I was being abused, but still. So yeah, has social media had a negative impact on the sport world? Probably. But has this made fans that little bit more insufferable? Yes, absolutely. Now it's just people just saying what they want, when they want, how they want. And honestly, if you go on to like just any social media, I'm just going to say the big three, which is just TikTok, YouTube, Twitter. And if you just go on any sport, just any, it will take you probably under 100 seconds to find just something stupid, just some fan just saying absolute waffle, delusion, rage bait, and it can also get a whole lot worse than that. So, and I did say rage bait, and that's actually one of the other deep-rooted issues. I feel like people don't understand rage bait that fully, so I'm just gonna quickly describe it on now. Essentially, rage bait is making someone angry. Look, I'll make you angry right now. You need to take a shower. Okay, now that was rude. So yeah, that was rage bait. It's just simply making someone angry on purpose. No reasoning, no explanation, just rage bait. Just making someone as angry as possible with as few words as possible. That just sums it up. And essentially, I think people don't understand rage bait all too much. So, and I think, look, I think rage bait is bad, obviously bad, but also just, if you say something's bad, or if you say something that's clearly meant to spark a debate but give reasoning, then that's fine. You could say American football is the best sport in the world because freedom is cool as hell, and you know what? I'd live with that. Understandable. Have a great day. But if you just put down other sports like your soccer or rugby or whatever, then that becomes an issue. You're just dragging others down just to make your point look good, and that just makes your point look worse now, because you're just dragging unnecessary people, and obviously they're not going to be happy. I think a lot of this happens, especially the dragging stuff down, a lot happens in GOAT debates. Pretty much what that means is greatest of all time debates. I'll just name a few sports: basketball, NFL, football, F1, all of that. Like, you could just say someone is the GOAT, that's fine, but then you just compare stuff, and then it just transcends into a big online war between two people, probably across the globe, never even heard each other, just got vexed of one person saying something that their favourite or best player, in their opinion, is worse just because of one stat. And yes, there is a story. Of course there's a story. Alright. So, a prime easy example of just easy rage bait. Oh, there's just hundreds to choose from, isn't there? Oh, and every sport as well. Like, there's some rage bait that's easy to spot, like calling an intentionally bad team, athlete, team, player, whatever, just insane. Like, if you call like a bad player, let's say, or a bad team, let's say you think, actually I'm just going to use my team, I'm a Reading fan, I'm going to say they're the best team in the world. Obviously that's a joke, people will understand that, but there are genuinely people, there will be people who feel offended by that, probably rival fans, or probably just insecure fans, who genuinely will just argue their point that they're not to the hills, which is funny and concerning for that person. Like, what is it with modern sport fans and their insecurities? Like, well, and I know it's not most of them, but come on, you just gotta take it. You just gotta take it, either as a joke, or just, and if you don't want to take it as a joke, just don't say anything at all. But yeah, alright, I'll get another story. So, an example of this prime, easy rage bait that will just catch on to people, and look, if you go into social media for the span of 5 minutes, you'll find one, especially sports social media, probably British social media, because it's just like walking through the trenches of the Vietnam War, isn't it? Just the jungles of Vietnam in the 1960s. That's what going through social media, in like sports social media, especially Gen Z social media, but I'll get onto that point later. So yeah, let's go on to the story. Alright, so prime example of this easy rage bait. Look, so on TikTok there was an innocent football video. It was an edit, alright? People make their edits. This one had good performance, 100,000 likes. It was just an edit, nothing more. It was about Man United, if you were wondering. Top comment, actually no, not top comment, it was like third top, but it had the most engagement. This guy, I'm not going to say his name, saying 3 words, actually 4, and I'm going to use the accent. It's actually called soccer. Oh my god, you can't imagine, especially in probably mostly a comment section filled with British people, insecure British people. That got like 160 comments, and honestly, pressing on that reveal replies button, I honestly felt that's like sticking your head through an insane asylum. Yep, that poor American bloke got abused to the hills. And the thing is, actually, why am I calling him a poor bloke? He planned this. He planned to have all this engagement, to have all this bait, and the fish took it, which is ironic. And yeah, it's simply just like that. They just take the bait. You say simply about 3 to 10 words, maybe a little bit more, depending on how slanderous you want to go, or how baity, or what you're trying to catch, or anything like that, and it will just take off. Your poor name will be probably called up. But the thing is, and I feel like rage baiting just is kind of a sad thing, but fine, let's see if we want to try it. Just be careful, because they're genuinely awesome. Is degenerate the right word? Just absolute dedicated people that genuinely might do stuff. I've heard not good stories, pretty bad stories. Just, if you want to rage bait, fine, just make it subtle and at least make it a bit fun, but just proceed with caution. That's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, modern sport fans, they're just absolutely crazy, aren't they? Especially seeing something that they don't like. Alright, what's next? So we've talked about social media, rage bait, and next up we're actually going to talk about a specific genre of people that like have existed more throughout the 2020 era, and this is the older sport fans, the ones that have probably grown up, had their childhood through the late 90s or the 2000s, and they've stuck with that era of the noughties. They've You probably still think the music is better, which it actually is. You probably still think the sport is better, the theatre or whatever, or just the roads. Why have I said roads? But yeah, they are called nostalgia merchants, and they are annoying. They are probably very annoying because because the future will happen. The past will never happen again. And they are just not letting it go. They are so attached to what happened 20 to 30 years ago. Back when it was simpler times. Yeah, actually, to be fair, it probably was pretty simple then. But still, so what? So actual what? So what? You just won't let the youth of today enjoy their sporting childhood and instead make it all about yourselves? Just that's pretty selfish. Like, and you may have favourites or preferences to sporting eras. In my opinion, I loved sport in 2022 and 2019. I know, but I don't go around just chatting about that and saying, oh, that was so much better than 2025. It could be better than 2025, 2026. Now that's coming up. But look, I'm just going to keep it to myself. And if I do want to talk about it, I'll make it in like those dedicated videos. Because there are some like dedicated videos like about like saying, oh, this. I feel like some good examples are Barclays Premier League. If you don't know what Barclays Premier League is, it was the old title sponsor for the Premier League and before it became Premier League. Also old NBA, I remember that was pretty big, especially when they had all loads of good players. Anything else? Probably no, to be honest. Those are probably the big two. And the thing is, there are some sports like now that are absolutely rising. There's a few. Formula 1 is becoming a bigger force thanks to social media and also Netflix, but we don't talk about that. Darts as well, it's absolutely massive nowadays. And now even some others. I think NFL is getting quite huge now with a lot of celebrity recognition. That is also one of the issues, but they're also probably an issue, celebrities, as modern sport fans, as they're not really sport fans, but we move on. So yeah, what is it with these old sport fans to go on social media just to tell new thing bad, old thing good, which is pretty much a topic everyone has seen before? Well, I'll give you 2 seconds to answer that. Okay, we're done. It's pretty much the influence. As kids, as youth, we are usually told that the adults are right. Well, at least that's what I was told, the adults are usually right. But look, and also it's a little bit weird for like a child to get into an argument with an adult online, like, and they just probably listen to the adult. So yeah, there are actual infants or children or whatever, teenagers, who have a connection to a genre of sport that they haven't even lived through. Like, it's annoying, isn't it? When they haven't even lived through it, but then they just act like they're the biggest knowledge of all of it, and that they just know it all, aren't they? They just act like nerds. And there isn't anything wrong with knowing the history of your sport, which is something I know, but to make it a whole personality and constantly throw shade on your era, the one where you're watching the sport from your childhood era, then what's the point? Then why even supporting if you're just going through something that doesn't exist anymore and just it's now written into history? Just enjoy your own era. That's all I'm talking. And for these nostalgia merchants, just let them enjoy their era, okay? When they are adults and you are grand adults, then you can have your debates. And honestly, I think they're fine. Both era sports are fine. They both have their iconic moments in whichever sport. They both have their big upsets, their big wins, and actually that is probably another thing. Why are these adults or nostalgia merchants saying bad. And I'm gonna use another point this time because maybe they think the sports aren't as good anymore. But I'm gonna say you right now, you were living through loads of dominance. Like football, you had the Ronaldo Messi era where they were just farming Ballon d'Ors like they were pieces of wheat on the ground. In basketball, you had the Lakers' dominance. F1, you had the dominance of Hamilton and Schumacher, and probably loads more in the NFL. But now, where's the dominance here? I'm going to use F1 again. Verstappen won 4 in a row. Darts, Littler's probably going to win 10 in a row. Actually, in fairness, Phil Taylor did win like 13 world titles in like 20 years. So that's probably another. And the thing is, they think the quality's gone worse just because the best athletes are not putting up the numbers that they used to. But it's a lot tighter. I'm going to use the Premier League. There were, I think, I'm going to use, 20 years ago when, some of the bottom clubs, Southampton were, Southampton and Coventry and Portsmouth, a bottom half team, were just, you just basically had no one to sign. But now, Wolves, Nottingham Forest and West Ham, they're signing European stars. Just come on. It's so much hard. It's such a harder game. All the games are so much harder now in nowadays. So have they gone worse? No, they've actually gone better, and the sports are more competitive to get yourself in. I know they've always been competitive, especially in America, where the only way to get into one of the big two sports, basketball and American football, is through college. And now it's still difficult, you still have to do the long process. Football and rugby, it's still the same process. You have to get into a good, scholarship for that. But now it's even harder because more people want to do it, and that's just the online presence. And now the celebrity-ifying, is that even a word, of these sports. And now it's hard, and they're saying, the quality's getting worse, even though it's probably been the best quality we've ever seen, and it's only going to get better. So no, they haven't got worse. It's just everyone's been better. Sure, the top stars may not be hitting the numbers, but the average, it's been significantly improved. And now we're going to jump to an interview of an older sport fan, probably a nostalgia merchant, I'm going to say. And I'm going to give her an interview of what she thinks of all this, and if I agree with her or if I don't, and I'll give my points. And so let's quickly cut to the interview. I'll do a transition in 3, 2, 1. Well, that transition was for nothing because we didn't actually get an interview. Sadly, they didn't arrive. But don't worry. Do not worry. Because I have managed to get compensation. Have I found a new person? No. But don't worry. Since this is about, nostalgic fans, then I'm going to read some nostalgic fans, people complaining about them. Alright, let's go. Why do younger football fans... It's going to be football again, innit? Why do younger football fans pretend like they watched 20th century players? Which is fair enough. I've seen loads of people say Pele was really good even though they're 19. Alright, let's go. The title pretty much sums it up. Statistically, most people on any social media are either teenagers or people in their 20s, which means none of them watched the likes of Baresi, Cruyff, Beckenbauer, Pele or Maradona. Actually, that's a lie, because they watched them on FIFA, on those all FIFA videos. They're higher ratings, so they must be pretty good. But yeah, FIFA is kind of a reason why people always say that. We never know. There's only a few videos. And yeah, they probably just watched a few compilations on YouTube. And this person I'm looking at saw a guy on Twitter who couldn't have been older than 20 say Ramos isn't in the top 10 defence of all time, and proceed to list players from the 1960s. A time when World War II happened like 15 years ago, and football's still in its caveman years. And anyway, and it does come along as cringe and pretentious. Is it so hard to just admit you can only talk about players you've watched live for years? For the years you've been alive. So yeah, and this guy also says, and I'm just going to read a few comments now. In all fairness, this person is 38, never seen Pele, so he can't really have a full judgment on him. And he hardly recalls Maradona as a player, because if you're 30, you're born in 88. Maradona retired in the mid-90s, so you barely recall him. And yeah, I bet like most 38s probably call Maradona as some saint, some god, some absolute legend, one of the best players of all time, and probably top 3 in the world all time. And it's a good reason, because, well, and this is something I did say, because people hear stories from parents, grandparents, etc., watch YouTube highlights and documentaries, because there is more documentaries about old players, old athletes, than new ones, because they still have a full career ahead of them. There's few. Those things are made to make the player bigger than the life figure. These modern players, excluding like some actually, these modern players seem very human and normal. So it is easy to put the past above them. I'd wager future people who'd put like some like really good players from like the 2000s in the top 2 or maximum top 3. Oh gosh, we've got loads more, man. As if a 30-year-old today would really be able to tell you whether Ramos, who is the guy we talked about earlier, was one of the best defenders of the past 10 years based on first-hand viewing. In a 10-year span, how many players do you really watch a full 90 minutes of them and say 30 times? How can you really compare Ramos to players you've barely seen? Which is a really good point, because they said something about Baresi, who's also a centre-back. I've never seen 1 minute of Baresi footage, but according to people online, they say, oh, he's incredible. I know he won a Ballon d'Or, but I don't know what he did. Like, sure, he probably won like a Champions League, but like, we don't know how he played. And the Ballon d'Or is kind of how you play. Ramos, we've seen how he plays. He's kind of like a warrior on field, and we can judge that because I've lived and saw football through like the 2016, 17, 18, 19, 20, and could see that damn, he's a scary guy and a really good captain. So yeah, that guy's pretty much true. And alright, there's another one. There's been football forever. People regurgitate what their elders taught them, because as we discussed before, listen to your elders, they're likely correct. Ask any young Liverpool fan who are greatest Liverpool players, and they will either name ask any young Liverpool fan who our greatest players are, and they'll also name Gerrard and Salah and Van Dijk. But they'll also name Barnes and Dalglish, because you're raised with those stories. Like, we don't know, like, I bet they don't know how Barnes or Kenny Dalglish played like, but they hear these stories and are always brought up with the opinion, knowing that the elders are always correct. So naturally, they just have to put them in there, just so they appease the older fans. And alright, this is another one. This person has watched football maybe since 2010 and are amongst the younger football fans. They have plenty of friends and even younger family members who are aware of the accomplishments of historical players because of stories, documentaries or video clips. Of course, we've never seen them play a minute live. I've never seen a full match of Maradona, Pele, etc. But I can appreciate their legacies, of course, because we at least know what they've done. They're still history, and history can't change. They've still won stuff. If a player won, I don't know, 5 Champions Leagues, you have to assume they're a pretty good player. And if the player scored like 4, and if player only scored like 1 goal, but like still played, you can assume that sure they win a good team, but just not a good player. But I bet some of these like nostalgia merchants will probably say, oh, that player was the glue that kept that team together. Reason why they won all this. Reason why they won that much better than this new player. that he just got at the club, even though it's actually pretty good. So yeah, alright, let's keep reading. I try to not order players in the top 10 of any kind, but people are entitled to their opinions. Yes, it's a bit cringe and pretentious, as you say, but most youngsters are just trying to fit in with those older people who like comparing, like saying this player was good because I saw him, and you know, as a kid, obviously a lot of things seem bigger. Like, I remember as a kid, I really loved football because it all looks so big and real. But now I'm just like, oh, I see it, cool, don't care too much. But as a kid, it's all you care about because you don't have that many worries in your life. And what's he saying? Nobody's getting hurt, and it opens the floor to educate, to be the big person, to have a conversation. No people who are my age so won't get you anywhere. So try once and then let it go, because well, they can't let go from that. They can't let go from the opinion that, and like I said, this behaviour, especially from like the core older fans, like the kind of ones that always think that they're correct, obviously rubs onto some younger fans, and they sometimes have opinions on old stuff that they've pretty much never seen. And yeah, so now no, it wasn't an interview, but I guess it covered, and now we're going to go back into the main podcast. So let's transition back in 3, 2, 1. Alright, and there we go, the interview's done. Back into just me in the room. And now we've talked about the older fans. Now we're going to talk about the fans in general. And essentially we're going to talk about loyalty and the decline of loyalty. And there are many reasons into why modern fans are getting less loyal to their teams, athletes, whatever. I think one of the main reasons is money. Of course, clubs, athletes, they are a brand, a business, and a business's end goal is to make as much money as possible, but it does hinder the fans, and obviously the fans don't want to spend more money just to watch their team do whatever, win, lose, draw, not a game cancelled, whatever. But yeah, but why don't the fans just stand up? There are many, especially in lower leagues, that have actually protested for the tickets, and it's worked. So why don't they do this all the time? And they just care about, well, themselves, which is absolutely fine. But still, at the end of the day, these teams are businesses, and their goal is to make the most money. And is it the fans' fault? No, not really. I just wanted to get this point out of the way. So, yeah, but the next point is actually quite a big one, and it's not really a UK thing. It's more something you'd see in second or third world countries. It's the glory hunter gimmick. Essentially, a glory hunter is someone who switches from team to team based on who's winning. So let's say you choose a team because they've just won, I don't know, they're just champions of their league, of whatever sports, but then they're not doing that well, so you just choose to the next team. And I think this is disgraceful, because I feel like a sport team should be something like, it's not like a religion, but something you should stick very, very close to. Like, it's just like a part in your life. It's a part of your life, exactly. And you'd want to stick with them through their winning, through their losing, through their relegations, through their promotions, through everything. And just because they're not doing that well, it's just, you still got to stay with them. I think a good example is, there was this guy's Instagram bio that I saw. It's a football fan, and it said football fan journey. It went something like this. 2014 to 2016, he was supporting Barcelona. 2016 to 2019, he was supporting Real Madrid. 2019 to 2024, he was supporting Man City. 2024 to 2025, he was supporting Liverpool. 2025 onwards, supporting Barcelona. Honestly, that just looks like a world-class player's transfer record, not someone's fan journey. And okay, that annoys me, you know, because you can't switch clubs like they're socks, like they're pairs of socks. You actually got to stick with them. And sure, you may support a big club just because they were doing well, but at least stick with them. I know countless people who were supporting Man United in like 2013, like when they were kids, because they're the biggest club in England, or just that's it. They were the biggest club in England. They're the most world-class players, but they stuck with them, even though they finished 15th in the league last season and lost the Europa League final to Tottenham. Like, who does that? Actually, speaking of Tottenham, I've actually got something else. And this is, again, Reading based because they're my club. And I think loyalty is a big thing because... But there's something that was always thinking for me. People go to the big games, and I'll prove it right now with two different stories. Same sports, sadly. But it is pretty much the same sort of thing. So, Reading were playing 2025 summer, July or August. It's a pre-season friendly against Tottenham. Usually, if you play a pre-season friendly against the team that finished 17th in the Premier League, usually it wouldn't be that good. Like, imagine if we did that last season where we played Nottingham Forest in summer 2024. That would be like, what is going on? You'd be like, oh, that's a good little day out, we can see some fans. But no, since they are the Europa League champions, technically they can sing European champions. You'll never sing that. But our stadium holds 22,000 people. 22,000 people showed up. Yep, actually that. 22,000 people showed up, and they were mostly Spurs fans, because they wanted a good away day close to their homes in Reading, London, whatever they live in, and they got that. They hit the gold mine, and they got to see their team play their pre-season friendly. And of course, Reading were also excited. It was a big payday, especially as this is the first official pre-season match under new ownership, and they wanted a big payday, and that's what they got. But then, I know the only times you'll get big crowds like that, especially at League 1, League 2, maybe even Championship, and this occurs like in every sport, which is not the first division, and you only get in big league matches like derbies, cup games, just any cup game, or if you get to a playoff final where literally everyone will come, even if they've been a fan, not many, even if they're not loyal at all, they will go down and say, I was part of that. Too bad that could also be me, but we can't even beat Exeter. But alright, so let's get this. We have a cup game against Milton Keynes Dons, MK Dons. Maybe then, in a cup game, not really knockout football, group stage football, where we can qualify on that night. Maybe loads of fans will come on a cold Tuesday night in Reading. Give 1,000 people. 1,000 people. 1,000 people in a 22,400 seater. That is about 4%. I did the math right now. 4% showed up, and I was actually one of them 4% because I didn't have school on Wednesday, I think. Yeah, but why? Because they just want to see the big games. Just because, sure, MK Dons aren't the most glamorous team. They're actually a pretty new team, but still, why aren't they supporting? Why? And again, we only had a 34% filled stadium at Exeter. I know it's cold, but still, that's... And I get ticket prices are a big deal, and sure, because... And sure, it's not like many other teams, because I'll give Luton is a good example. Luton's example is right next to the houses, right next to like the pubs and whatever, and the train stations. Because Reading is about a 3-kilometre walk. I know that because I walked from the train station to the stadium. It took like an hour, and yeah, it's not really the most fun experience, especially going on a bus, on a crammed, sweaty, double-decker bus. It's obviously not a nice experience, but still, I think people do underestimate how much the fans make an impact on the team, especially a team trying to go up in the world. And I'll give you another example. It's again a League One team, and guess what? It's a team I just mentioned like 2 minutes ago. It's the smallest club in the world. Actually, that is clear rage bait. Maybe I am an issue. It's Exeter. It is Exeter City, and this is not about them as a club. Actually, this is a little bit about them as a club, but their attitude to the FA Cup. Pretty much, if you don't know what the FA Cup is, it's the oldest football club cup competition in the world, and a pretty cool rule is ticket sales are split 50-50 between both clubs, which is really good, especially if your club gets a big away day. Exeter City got Manchester City in the FA Cup third round draw, which is absolutely brilliant. Exeter are not a rich club, mind you, and they are now getting probably the richest club in the world. So what do? What do they do? Exeter are going to get a big payday, probably like close to £500,000, if I'm being perfectly honest. They complain. Yeah, they complain. And why? What did they complain about? They asked the STAEC, the Sports Trust at Exeter City, they wanted Man City to increase ticket prices. So that the fans can't get into their grounds because it's a bit too expensive, and that probably will turn a few people off. And why did they do that? Because they wanted more money. They were a bit greedy with that. So yeah, and about 7,000 Exeter fans came, and yeah, do you want to know the score? Just guess the score. I think you might know it. But guess what the score was between a League One team and a Premier League team. They've only got 40 places in between. Bear in mind, Man City have beat a League 2 team 8-0 last season. Yeah, the score was 10-1. They conceded 10 and embarrassed the whole of League 1, which is weird because after that they went like 5 games unbeaten. They're going 6 games unbeaten. But still. And 7k fans is a lot. Especially fans travelling all the way from Devon to Greater Manchester to see their team pretty much concede the same amount you see in a rugby game. So, how much do you think Exeter City pulls at St James's Park in Exeter, their stadium? I'll give you a few minutes to think about that. The stadium holds about 14,000 people, and they took 7k to Man City. Surely you think that home support must be immense for some big games. Okay, thinking time's over, and Exeter City's average attendance this season at home, granted the same team that brought 7k to the Etihad, 6,500, 500 less than what they took on a one away trip, which is disgraceful from the fans. And sure, Exeter might be penny pinching and maybe increasing ticket prices to the odd pound, but still, that's a horrendous lack of loyalty. 7,000 fans travelled all the way, halfway up the country. Oh my god, I'm losing my voice for a second. Sorry. Where was I? Oh yeah. Exeter City fans, 7,000 of them, the same size as a small UK town. Probably not. 7,000 of them went all the way to Greater Manchester to watch their team lose 10-1, and yet that's less than what they would pull at an average home game in a League One, which is shocking. Because why? The fans only care about the big games, which is not a good mindset. You still gotta watch every. It's like It's like you're in school and you only care about like 2 subjects and you just kind of let the other ones go to dry. That's not a mentality you should have. You should support your team when you can, because I support my team when I can, when I'm available, and they just don't. They see, oh yeah, like a 200-mile round trip to Manchester, halfway up the country, where they speak a different accent. Absolutely, but I gotta take the tube or the bus in my own city. I think that will turn me off a little bit. I can't do that. And yeah, it's not just Exeter fans, but they were the most recent. It probably happens like everywhere across the field and like other sports, and there probably will be. And alright, so we talked about the loyalty, but now let's talk about, and we've talked about the old. We talked about loyalty, we talked about the old. Now let's go to something I spoke about very briefly for like 20 seconds. It's all about the Gen Z fans. Pretty much people who were born in the 2000s didn't experience what the old people had and are now, well, they are now a little bit insufferable. I can't lie. But the thing is, they've done a little bit good. Like I said, they've had a big social media presence, obviously, and teams, which are basically businesses, they try to cater towards that. I have seen countless teams doing Gen Z trends. A good example is, what year were you born in? Which pretty much every English team, American team, whatever we're doing right now. Essentially, if you don't know what the trend was, it's what year were you born? If you're born after 2000, it's normal. But if you're born before 1999, you're you're a dinosaur, pretty much. You're Shakespeare's pal. You probably hooked up with Cleopatra in school. Essentially, stuff like that. So yeah, they've done some good, and a lot of those get popular, and it's good for some of these teams to get a good market out, to market themselves as trendy, as good with the youth, especially as more youth players start joining. Pretty good example is actually in Formula 1 somehow, with the team, oh god, I'm going to say this, don't I? The whole thing, Visa Cash App Racing Bulls. Pretty much, they are pretty much the TikTok team, and are just known, both their drivers are incredibly young. I think their second driver was born in 2008, which is incredible, and pretty much most of their stuff is like lip sync and doing whatever trends that there are. And yeah, that is good, that is absolutely fine. Gen Z started it, and since most of their audience, most of their team, the big drivers of their team are young, like very young, they may as well cater towards that, and which is fine. But there are some few examples where the stuff that the Gen Z fans described, and when those teams, players, whatever, are doing that, they get hate from that same audience that they were trying to cater to, just calling it cringe. I mean, sure, some of them are, especially like last year, like 6 months ago, where people were doing all sorts of stuff, like the funny 2 numbers, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, that was a little bit cringe. So yeah, and the things the fans started that, because, well, whatever they see, they try and make a joke out of it, which obviously will affect, but they just can't let go of it, and which is a little bit upsetting. But like I said, that's only a small handful. I think most Gen Z fans are fine and are a big reason why many sports has probably increased in popularity. I'm going to say darts is a good one. Littler was 16 when he burst onto the scene, and now is friends with loads of influencers and celebrity friends. Some that are very well with the Gen Z audience. So yeah, and I think the last thing is probably to discuss like brain rot in sports. It's pretty much stuff like what's your brains, and yeah, it does exist, and it can be a little bit annoying when sports teams do post that stuff, because it can be a little bit cringy. I mean, is it funny? Probably not, but to be fair, there are a lot of PR activities like that are Gen Z related or relatable, that are just like, that are trends or whatever, that are pretty cool, humorous and whatever. They are, I mean, some shows they aren't just ruining the sport, but they are just some cool ones, that just some cool PR activities that. So yeah, have Gen Z fans been worse? Probably. They do cover a lot of the stuff I've said before, like social media, rage bait, being a little bit hateful, spiteful, but they have been covered before, and yes, they do cover. That is a small majority, but that is a majority that exists, and yeah, I already said that, but now, right now, we're gonna call over our second interview. Is he a professional fan? Probably not. He's a Wycombe Wanderers fan, which I don't like, and he just enjoys some other sports as well. We have Gen Z fan Vinny, and we're going to be interviewing him on what he thinks of just Gen Z fans and Gen Z sport and this new era of sports, brands, businesses, just trying to cater towards the Gen Z audience, and we're going to see what he thinks. So we're going to do another transition to get what he thinks, alright, in 3, 2, 1, and go. And now we are joined for our second interview with a Gen Z fan, Vinny. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Vinny. I'm a football fan.
Thank you very much. So, how often do you watch football in general?
Live or on TV?
Just any sort.
Probably multiple times a week.
Multiple times a week?
Yeah, during peak seasons.
Do you also where do you watch them? TV, or do you watch them occasionally while watching YouTube or TikTok or any of that?
I usually watch the live games and stuff on TV, and then watch highlights after them on YouTube.
Are you someone who likes to comment, or just read the comments?
I usually just read the comments.
What do you see in those comments?
I usually see people talking about their own opinions about what's just happened and what they think should be changed and stuff.
Do you think sometimes when there's an unpopular opinion, do you usually see an argument forming?
Yeah, sometimes in comment sections you see little arguments about some stupid opinions, and then the person who says them just gets ridiculous backlash, which is quite funny to see sometimes.
Can you tell if someone's rage baiting or not?
I think there's a level of ridiculousness, and you can tell how if they're rage baiting or something.
Alright, I'll give you an example of rage bait. So say you're on TikTok just watching a football video, someone says it's called soccer, what do you feel? Would you just not care, or would you
I wouldn't feel that bothered, because it's what Americans call football, because their main sport in their country's called football, but we call it American football in England, so I think they'd get annoyed if we called it American football. So it goes either way, in my opinion.
So you're just not bothered at all?
I'm not bothered.
So, do you feel when did you start watching football in general?
I started watching Wycombe Wanderers at the age of 5.
And do you feel like Wycombe is getting better or worse than when you started?
When I started, we were probably a relegation battling League 2 team, and now we've had lots of highs since, a few lows, but we've been in the Championship, which is the best the club's ever been in its history. So I think it's definitely improving.
Do you feel like the quality of sport in general is better or worse than you were when you were little?
I think the facilities and things around football is definitely a lot better, and I think the quality is always going to slightly improve, but not massively. But I think for Wycombe, because the team's improved, the quality of the sport that I'm seeing definitely has.
Okay, because there are a lot of people that just watch the big the elite level of football, and during those elite levels of sport, there was huge periods of dominance from certain players or teams, and now that's not really happening anymore. It's more spread about, and that's why some people are angry, not people who are hitting the stats that they expected. Just what do you think about that?
I think in the lower leagues you get less of that, because there's promotion relegation spots, so if a team's too good for a certain league, they won't be there for that long. So I think that's why I prefer the lower leagues, because there's a lot more variety of the teams. You don't have the same big six dominating every league in the Premier League.
Because in the Championship there could be there's your usual Bournemouth, Leeds, Burnley, but they'd have one good season and then one bad season.
Yeah, I
Right.
think if you look at the teams that got relegated from the Premier League last season, Leicester, Sheffield United, and
Southampton.
Southampton, they're all doing mid-table in the Championship. Actually, no, it's Ipswich.
Oh yeah.
Ipswich are
sorry.
pushing for promotion, but then
But the other two
are
are
just
very
slowly
good.
falling down. So it shows the levels between the Premier League and the higher Championship sides, which football fans might describe them as yo-yo clubs.
And what do you think?
I think it's a valid opinion, but it just shows the levels that the Premier League and the EFL has between them. There's a big gap because you have the multiple Premier League teams who just stay there forever, and even in the Championship, you have teams like Bristol City just stuck in the Championship for their lifetime.
All right, thank you very much. All right, next up, do you like the fact that there's like more diversity and inclusivity now in like sports, which didn't really exist back then?
Yeah, I think definitely I'm seeing a lot more Wycombe fans from multiple races and religions starting to attend, which I think is good because it allows more fans to go watch football, because I think football's mainly a like
The world's
English
game.
sport, yeah. And now it's slowly turning into a worldwide sport.
And do you think that's gonna happen with like more like English known sports now in the future?
Yeah, I think it definitely will, because even if you look at darts, for example, that's mainly an English sport and it's now spreading around to multiple parts of the world.
Oh yeah, because now now recently there was Bahrain and Saudi Arabia. They
Yeah.
wanted it. And what's your opinion like the Middle East takeover of certain sports? Are you against it?
I'm not against it because every league has to start from somewhere, and I think Saudi Arabia is just a bit behind, but they've got the money to be able to make it much better than it is right now.
Okay. Let's go back to the inclusivity. Do you think the Gen Z like audience is kind of to thank for like extra inclusivity, like for example like with the women's sports and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I definitely think in my lifetime, when I was first born, I didn't really know much about women's football, but now it's getting broadcast a lot more, it's being shown more on social media, and the funding in the women's game has definitely improved, which I think is a good thing for everyone.
Do you see more like positive comments about it, or is there like some people who are, let's say, stuck in the past a little bit?
You see lots of positive comments, but then sadly you also see some negative comments about it, about the ability of them.
Or just anything else in general? And it could be in any sports as well.
Yeah, even in darts, I think that the inclusivity is definitely important, because the crowds at darts is definitely a multi-gender crowd, which is good to see. So it's not just mainly men dominated, it's got lots of females, and even female darts players playing in the men's games, like Bo Greaves, for example.
Oh yeah. Alright. And like, what's your opinions on organisations or sport teams trying to be like trendy with the younger audiences?
I think it's good because lots of football teams, pretty much every team, has social media accounts that follow trends and stuff, which then encourages younger fans to start attending the matches, which I think is good because it improves the like overall atmosphere around the clubs and the people attending them.
Do you think this would upset someone like the core older fans?
I definitely think a lot of older fans at Wycombe sometimes get frustrated with the younger audience because they sometimes get a bit too over the top with what they do.
Oh yeah.
So I think they're used to older traditions where Wycombe have got a little non-league team, and now the fan base is getting bigger. I definitely think some fans are getting slightly annoying.
Alright. And have you heard many like older fans saying that the old generation was like much better? Like people who
I
are...
haven't actually heard people say that it was better, because for example Wycombe's definitely got a lot better in recent years, but you definitely do hear stories about the older players and how great they were. And even at half-time, for example, at Adams Park, sometimes they walk around the pitch and get a great round of applause from all of the older generation. And even the younger don't even know who they are.
And even in like sport in general, do you hear like loads of people saying, "Oh, this player was so much better"? Just in like general sport.
I think you do. Even in darts at the moment, people are comparing Phil Taylor and Luke Littler, because Luke Littler's of the Gen Z generation, so it's comparing him and an older person.
I know like most sport teams in general, I'm just going to pick one out, Arsenal. Arsenal has a very, very young squad. Do you think that's good for like the younger audience to have that young team?
Yeah, I think it is, because you look at people who are your age and you want them to do well. For example, Max Dowman at Arsenal, he's 16 years old or 17 now, and he's a similar age to most of the Gen Z audience.
Oh yeah.
Which is definitely an inspiration for many.
And now, well, that's pretty much all. Every question I've got. Thank you very much
Thank you.
for joining me, and we'll get back to the main podcast.
Sorry, thanks.
And there we go. Thank you, Vinny, for that interview. We're back into the main podcast. And now, well, honestly, I don't think that was a good point. I know he's a football person, but honestly, it was good to hear the views of like a proper core Gen Z fan. I know I'm pretty much the same, but it's good to get someone else's opinions out there. Alright, so now the next and final point we're going to talk about is actually one genuinely I could go on and on and on about. And on about. Oh my god, my voice. It's something that basically did not exist 30 years ago. And no, it's not the Gen Z fans. It is something that like only 20% of this demographic are actually a problem. And if you want to know what it is the female fans in sports. The female fans, pretty much. And there's literally only two types. There's the normal fans who just watch the sport, follow along, probably prefer the female sports than others, but that's absolutely fine. And then there's that other like 20%, which are the ones that pretty much know nothing about the sport and only follow certain athletes just because they look nice. Which I mean fair enough, but these people have pretty much no knowledge, and they are unfortunately the ones with the loudest voice in their community. Like, there are some occasions where they can be annoying or can show off that they don't have that much knowledge. So yeah, and they kind of do the most of the female fans in sports kind of bad, because even though most of them are just kind of chill and relaxed, that other 20%, the ones that don't know anything and the ones that only follow certain people just because they look nice, just have the loudest voice and will defend that person to the hills. I feel like the main offenders, like sports, with those fans are probably tennis and F1, because they are single player sports, they're not team sports. And if it's like the single player sports, then you can just follow them whenever, because they don't have anyone to pass the ball to or anything. They just rock up, maybe beat one opponent or drive a bit, and that's it. They're pretty much models and I mean, fair enough, it's normal to idolise a model, but they are athletes in the end of the day. But why am I saying this? Well, because it's actually a story, and this is a story that I really, really, really wanted to say ever since I thought of this idea, and it is the story of Sky Sports Halo. So this is a mini documentary inside a podcast. I could have a full hour about this, but I'm gonna try and summarise it the best that I could do. So, it was the end of 2025, so this is extremely, extremely recent. And Sky, the famous sport media broadcasting company, there we go, got that word now, they decided to create a brand new platform for the female audience, which in general seemed pretty good and could definitely shine some light on like the female sports, like the WSL, the WNBA and F1 Academy, all those. So how would they approach it? And we're actually going to do a bit of audience participation on this one. It's going to be multiple choice, just pick one answer. Did they A, showcase women's sport, B, showcase women's sport, C, showcase women's sport, or D, all of the above? Now think about that. It's a very, very difficult question, and you need a good answer. Okay, have you got your answer? Okay, good. The answer was E. Do absolutely none of that and only showcase the male athletes. Like, the ones that like that 20% like really liked. I'm not even joking, because their TikTok account now is it's gone. They deleted it. I've had to do some individual snooping of what their videos actually look like, because, and well, I've actually got some, because there are some reposts and stuff, and there was also a video by Bracknell Town mocking them. Bracknell Town mentioned as well. That's good to hear. So, what did it actually look like? I'll take one video for example. So, and this is, remember, this is the channel that represents like the women's sport. So what was their like video? It was pretty much like Erling Haaland against, I think, Fulham, running in, scoring in the bottom corner. That's it. For that in itself, it's a little bit weird to be posting on a female only account when you could easily post that on like Sky Premier League and they'll do better performance because it's got more followers. But that's not all. I'll actually show it right now. Instead, they had down the bottom in the pink glittery text, and I really don't want to say this as well. Okay, I'll say this. It's the pink glittery text with like the white border. It's, oh my god, I don't want to say this because like, okay, fine. Deep breaths. Okay, in pink glittery writing, when an Erling Haaland goal, it said, and I'm gonna whisper this, when the matcha plus hot girl combo goes like this, or something like that. Oh, I don't want to say that. Yeah, I don't know what that means. I bet even like 80% of the female community don't even know what that means. Like, what the hell? I don't know why both of those link to Haaland scoring against Everton. Is that a good thing? Is that something that like, oh, it's incredible? I don't know. I actually don't know. Like, what was Sky thinking? Like, their main mission was probably to build the brand up a little bit on TikTok, then spread it out to Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, and probably X at the end of it. And then, as a big goal, maybe, just maybe, get its own channel on Sky TV, which is probably a bad thing, because you're separating both of them. But never mind, they could have shown like the Women's Cricket Series, WSL, and probably F1 Academy as well. So yeah, was that their end goal? Well, what should they have done, pretty much, instead of those match of stuff? Well, it's simple. Just showcase women's sports. And I know that sounds extremely cliche, but that's what they should have done. Just do that, and that's it. It would have built up over time. That's what a brand is. Something that builds up over time. Like, I'm not great in business, but that's pretty much what you gotta do, Sky. So yeah, how long did this thing last for? It lasted for about 3 days, which is less than the European Super League, if anyone remembers that. And yeah, pretty much like loads of clubs, fans like mocked them. Like I mentioned Bracknell Town doing something, making fun of that. And yeah, even just like random people just mock them, and yeah. And fair enough, like even some comments like by people who like, even like some actual comments by like female sport fans, even they were like kind of mocking it as well, because that's not a good business strategy from Sky. It's not good because they targeted. And why does this relate to the problems of sport fans? Because that 20% of female fans, they have the loudest voice by far, and you can't. And the other 80% just casually watch the sports, just occasionally leaving the odd comment. But the other 20%, when they see something about their favourite athlete, oh, they'd probably go ballistic. Like, they just can't let go from the fact that they see their favourite on screen and go crazy about it, pretty much. But yeah, so that is the Sky Halo story, and honestly I thought it'd be a lot longer, to be honest. That is the condensed version. So yeah, Halo released like a statement saying, we messed up and we're not gonna do that again. And probably, and to be fair, that's kind of been swept under the rug, but like they still targeted the wrong demographic of fans, and I don't know who the account was made by or who thought of that or who made the edits, but I don't know, and you made a mistake, person. I have no idea who you are. So yeah, that was everything about Sky Halo. And again, why was this a problem with the modern sport fans? Because this wouldn't happen 10 years. This would not happen 10 years ago, mainly because they weren't talked about that much. But now, in the big 2026, it's now heavily talked about, and they will get scrutinised because there is now a lot more people judging them, and which is for the better or for the worse. But in the end, Sky made a mistake. They made something too over the top, when really they should have just kept it as simple as possible. So what would I have done? Well, actually, I think I've already said that. Showcase women's sports, exactly, just that. And maybe just some extra stuff, like, and maybe they can include like some of the big like idols from like the tennis, golf, F1, football even, but at least it's got to relate back to the female athletes in sports. Like, I'll just make a random one: Bukayo Saka going to a WSL game, or like Lewis Hamilton with one of the F1 Academy drivers, like something like that, because at least it relates back to the actual site, while also bringing some big names in, some big like male athlete names in to help grow it. And they didn't even choose right ambassadors. They didn't even have ambassadors in the first place. Instead, like, I remember one of their videos was about Sinner and Alcaraz, when realistically it could have been about like any other female tennis athletes, like any two. Like, that's stuff that belongs on Sky Tennis, not what's meant to be the female only Sky site. Alright? Like, they made a mistake, and they need to own it. And it's honestly been kind of now swept under the rug, because now not many people are talking about it. So yeah, Sky's a pretty good PR team to sweep that under the rug. But yeah, and maybe anything about like other female, like that small majority. Of course, this doesn't relate to anyone, but there is also just some other stuff. Like, I mentioned about obsessions, but I could also talk like about some other stuff. But this also does go under those like small type of male fans that like the ones that also like obsess about the female athletes. So yeah, there's also stuff like artwork and I don't want to say this, but fan fiction. Don't read that. I will never read that. But yeah, there's some good ones, but like realistically, why do you make them? Like, I get if you make it off like fake characters, because like they're fake, you can kind of decide what you want. But like if it's like real athletes with families, and you're making this assumption or this delusion, I could say that, which probably is delusion, that like, oh, you're with them. Like, the thing is, they do come up on TikTok like of someone and like an athlete or a driver being in a very close relationship. I mean, it's weird. Firstly, it is a little bit weird. Like, these people actually have families. Like, if you did some random cartoon character, fair enough, you can pretend that all you like, but these are real people. And like, again, the male fans aren't off the hook as well, because, well, they can also, I've never seen it, but I do know it's out there, like of them like with some doing something with like female fans in their like stories. And yeah, that is pretty much everything I've covered about the issues with modern football fans. So oh my gosh, this has gone on for way too long and my voice is hurting, but I'll just quickly make a conclusion. So yeah, in conclusion, are modern sport fans worsening over time? And it's a simple answer: yes, they actually are. They are worsening over time. It's just a mix of brain rot and social media. It's just like, and also, I also forgot to mention attention spans. Like, there are now less and less people who actually like can sit through stuff, especially if it's on TV. but still. And also, yeah, that's pretty much it. Modern sport fans are worsening. Social media is a big reason, but it's not the full reason. Actually, it kind of is. Every single one of my points I've made can relate back to social media. Old fans, they can always go on Facebook or whatever old site they use and just say, oh, I'd say this is better than this, or I prefer this because they were winning and they're not, even though sport is becoming a lot more harder, especially when, like, you can see all these athletes on social media living their nice celebrity lifestyles, which is pretty hard to see in the 90s. And yeah, and people want to be like that, and so it's getting more competitive. Like, I bet every child from like 5 to 10 probably tried a sport and had dreams of going professional and buying a rich house for themselves, and now they've given up and probably turned to YouTube, and that's given up, and so they actually turn to an actual job. That could be me. No, maybe. But still, sport's getting harder. And also, like, the Gen Z fans, I mean, they live on the phones, so that's pretty self-explanatory. Social media is kind of the issue why the young fans are worsening over time. I mean, to be fair, what would I prefer? The young fans, like teenage fans, just chatting some absolute on social media, or like almost starting a fight in the streets? Well, at least they're getting outside, but actual joking. We don't know because we didn't live there. We can only have stories which are just interpretations of what young fans did back then. And those young fans, guess what? It all comes full circle, because now they're the old fans saying, oh, they're my sport, or was so much better or nicer than it is now. And also the female fans, again, social media, because like a lot of females on social media making a lot of money from it. Don't say how, but of course, like, social media is probably the best way to get their opinions out for, or their confessions out, especially those loud ones like that 20% I was talking about. And yeah, they could post whatever, do whatever, buy whatever, and take pictures of whatever. Like, do they know much about the sports? Probably not. They've probably seen like one Netflix series, and probably bought like one shirt, or have a cardboard cutout, which actually it does exist. Except if they're like being kind of fun about it. No, if they're being deadly serious. If they're being kind of fun, because I've actually seen someone with a cardboard cutout of F1 driver Ollie Behrman, and they were just kind of fun about it. They were just being a bit jokey about it. You can tell when someone's being jokey with like the way, like that over obsession instead of just that obsession. They have like that jokey over obsession. But yeah, and I think on that note of like social media, oh yeah, I forgot about also like rage bait. Rage bait literally only happens in social media, because if you rage bait someone like outside, especially in like a football game or darts actually, because like darts everyone is drunk as hell. Yeah, so if you try to rage bait someone not in front of a screen, you are going to probably get punched, and that punches do hurt, I believe. And honestly, I'm going a bit off track, can't I? Alright, let's go back. So sport fans, I mean I guess football fans are like a big genre of the sport fans. Yes, they are getting worse. Social media is a reason. Rage bait, only laugh when you're aware it's rage bait. Don't engage. It's like trying to swim in a vortex. It won't work. You're gonna get sucked in, and additionally, that is it. Proceed with caution online, everyone, and we shall see you back in the next episode. Goodbye, everyone. And that's that.